Good evening everyone and welcome to Hitbullseye. I am Sheetal, your verbal teacher here at Hitbullseye, and today I am going to start this master series for preparation of MBA entrance exams. It will be mostly related to the CAT exam, but I will discuss many non-CAT topics also if I say it is related to verbal. So today is the first lecture, though I have made many more videos on all the topics, be it reading comprehension, parajumbles, vocabulary, analogy, SR questions, misfit, odd one out question, or placing the sentence in a paragraph questions. But you may say, in this series that I am starting today, I will start from the very fundamentals. So anyone who hasn't seen the videos before and anyone who is aiming this year's CAT wants to prepare for the MBA entrance exams within these 4 months, this is the series. So just try to grab all the concepts. I'll be giving you all the tips and tricks from the very scratch. Without any further ado, let's get into today's live and see what is the relevance of reading comprehension in not just CAT exam but also other non-CAT exams also, in all the MBA entrance exams. And then we shall see what are some of the trickiest type of question that you get in reading comprehension. So if I have to segregate the question types in reading comprehension, though there are just these 5 to 6 types of question, but the language often is very difficult. And direct question or fact-based question is something I think we can all manage pretty well, but then there are certain critical reasoning or inference, tone and main idea types of question that I would count in the trickiest type. So today I've come up with some of the tricks that makes it easy to solve that makes it easy to solve reading comprehension, followed by a practice paragraph also. So let's try to solve that comprehension together. It's a little lengthy one. That is what the catch is. How do you approach lengthy passages? Similarly, I'll be coming up with more such topics and tricky questions from each and every area of your verbal section. Let's now start with today's lecture. We are going to do the trickiest question of reading comprehension. Before that, let's have a look at the pattern of the CAT exam. You get in total 66 questions in your CAT exam. The number has been same after the pandemic. From verbal you will get 24 questions, maximum number of questions. That is the reason it's highly scoring. LRDI you will get 20 questions. From quant or your maths you will get 20 questions. Now how many net score do we need to get, or we can call it a decent score? Well, I believe by now every CAT aspirant would be aware that this particular exam, it's not about attempting each and every question. It's about attempting the right set of questions. It's very important that whenever you take your marks, analyze it which all questions were easy and moderate level. You should have not missed those questions. So try to keep the ratio 80% is to 80%. 80% should be the attempt rate and 80% accuracy. If you are able to maintain this and not attempting all the 24 questions from verbal, by not attempting all the 20 or 22 questions from LRDI or quant respectively, you will score somewhere above 95 percentile. You can try it, attempting different marks. You'll get to know that yes, this paper is about identifying our weaknesses and not going for those questions. So let's start with the first question, which is reading comprehension. Now, if I only talk about the verbal section, from reading comprehension, you will get 16 questions. Yes, you heard it right. Now think about it. Out of 24, 16 are from reading comprehension. That's a positive point. I've seen a lot of students fretting about this exam, whereas you don't get any grammar or vocabulary question, no direct question from grammar or vocabulary. You don't need to learn any rules. The paper is aimed only on testing your aptitude, your general understanding of the language. So 4 passages, 4 questions each, you will get 16 questions from RCs. From SR or parajumbles, where different sentences are put in a jumbled order, you just have to arrange them in the right order to make a coherent paragraph. You will get 3 questions from this area. From para summaries, you will again get 3 questions, a short paragraph, A short paragraph followed by 4 to 5 option which tries to summarize that paragraph. You have to select one which appropriately suffices or justifies the summary of the paragraph. And this last type is placement question. Earlier we used to get the odd one out or the misfit question, but last year this new question type was seen, wherein a sentence is given in the question followed by a paragraph with 4 different blanks. You just had to decide in which blank can you fit that sentence. So you can see one thing, though there are 16 questions directly based on reading comprehension, but the nature and the orientation of rest of the question is also of that of reading, right? Now these 2 questions and these 3 questions, these are theta questions. For theta question you don't have any negative marking, it's a positive point. Now SR is a very attractive option, but you may end up spending a lot of time in solving parajumble or SR question. To know why do we spend so much of time on this area, and if it has no negative marking, we should definitely be going for this area. Then when should I spend that 4-5 minutes on this area out of those 40 minutes? So you get 40 minutes in the exam for every section. I'll be discussing parajumbles and SR with you in the upcoming lives. Stay tuned to the channel if you want to know that this scoring area, when should you approach these questions if you want to score good and you do not want to waste time on this area. Today our topic is different, that is the reason I'm not going to spend a lot of time on parajumbles. Now what is measured through this exam? It's about your ability to understand the written English and draw logics from it. Your ability to relate logical relationships between the facts and the concepts that are given over there, and your ability to draw inferences. Inferences are like hidden conclusions. So if I tell you a story, I show you some pictures and then I ask you, what did you deduce from it? That means what did you infer from it? What conclusion you draw from the given paragraph or given situation? Those are known as inferences. Now it's very clear, it's unstated conclusion. It would not be explicitly given to you in the passage in form of any one fact. This is something you can answer only after you have logically understood the whole story behind that passage, that what is this author trying to convince us for? These are the things that you should be careful of while doing the passages. Takeaway from the pattern that we just saw is RC has 66% in this section. So you can clearly see that 66% is a lot. So reading comprehension is inescapable. It's better we know tricks for it. Yeah, the main question types that I was discussing with you, that the 5 to 6 question types. These are those question types. Let's understand them one by one, and we'll take up some of them through practice question today. But I'll be taking up the difficult ones. Okay, so the first and the most important question is the main idea or the gist of the passage. Call it primary idea, primary concern, major concern, it's one and the same. Once you read a passage, no matter how lengthy it is, if it has 3 paragraphs, let's say, you should be able to write it down into 2 to 3 lines, as in what was there in the passage, what was author trying to convey through the passage. That is known as the main idea, the focus point of the passage around which all the examples are given, all the facts are given. So we know that in reading comprehension there is a lot of information, and it becomes, I know that students struggle a lot to decide which all lines and keywords need my attention and which all can I skip because it's way too lengthy. So if you are able to find out the main idea, the purpose will be solved. A lot of CR questions, critical reasoning based question, comes from main idea only. If they ask you which of the following option strengthens author's belief or favors the passage, idea of passage, how will you know which option favors it if you do not know the main idea? So make it a habit every time you are reading any article, editorial, or you're practicing RCs. Even if there is no direct question from main idea, you should always reflect on it. That what is the passage? What is the takeaway from the passage? The next question type is inference questions. I've already explained you. These are the hidden conclusion or unstated conclusion that you draw on the basis of given facts. It cannot be any external idea saying that it is, saying that it is unstated. It can be this option, it can be this option. It should logically be related to what the author is trying to convey. Next is vocabulary based question, wherein they may pick a word from the passage and ask an antonym or synonym of that. So there are oblique chances of getting vocabulary question, at least in the CAT exam, but yes, you may get these questions in non-CAT exams. Tone of the passage. Tone is the attitude of the author. Is he favoring the subject or the main idea? Is he, criticizing it? Or is he being neutral? The passage is that of, informative nature, descriptive nature. Author is simply giving you different perspective, different point of views. He isn't trying to prove anything here. He's just giving you information. In that case, it will be a neutral tone. After you have identified if it is positive, negative or neutral, then go on to see the option choices to decide which word is the correct. The challenge with tone questions, which I will take up very soon in probably the next live, we will take up inference and tone questions. The problem with the tone question is, that the tone is criticizing, author is criticizing, let's say, increasing population of India. But the option choices that will be given to you, the vocabulary used in them can be tricky. So we will take up one live exclusively on different words that you can use for tones. Direct question, again, very bleak chances of getting direct question in CAT exam. In grad level exam, you may get direct questions. Something asked from the passage. The answer you can easily trace in the passage. Title of the passage, that phrase you can say, or few words that introduces us to what we are going to read about, is the title of the passage. And reasoning based question that stem from the main idea question. All the question that ask you which of the following is opposite or contradicts the author's idea, which of the following favors author's idea, which of the following strengthens author's idea, adds credence to author's idea. Different ways of asking the same question. Mostly they'll be asking you which option is in line with the facts that are already given, which option negates or is opposite to something that is already given in the passage. I hope the question types are clear and you would have got some idea about it. So how about we together read one passage today, quickly, as soon as possible. Let's approach it like a layman. Let's see how to understand a passage. The passage is a little lengthy one, so I'll quickly rush through it. If you want to read something again, you may stop the video in between. But I'll show you, I'll highlight the sentences and the phrases that need more of our attention. A lot of information in lengthy passages is not necessary. So it's important that you do scanning and skimming. Scanning is you go through the whole passage quickly. Skimming is taking out only the important information. So let's see this passage. Everyone who's been attending the live, try to read the passage and try to answer each and every question to the best of your ability. Alright, the brutal outcome of this collision between the Moriori and the Maori could have been easily predicted. The Moriori were a small isolated population of hunter-gatherers. Now these are the kinds of information you should just keep in mind. Equipped with only the simplest technology and weapons, entirely inexperienced at war and lacking strong leadership of organization. The Maori, whereas, were invaders who came from a dense population of farmers chronically engaged in ferocious wars, equipped with more advanced technology and weapons and operating under strong leadership. Of course, when the two groups finally came into contact, it was the Maori who slaughtered the Moriori, not vice versa. What was difficult in that? Very easy. It sets the tone of the passage. It tells us about what we are going to read about. So basically these are two tribes. Moriori somewhere near Polynesian Islands or somewhere near New Zealand, you can say. Moriori group, Maori group. So the bigger name, these are the people, those who are hunter-gatherer. Their population is not too much, they are not too advanced, and they are not very ferocious. Whereas Maori is the group which is very ferocious. They do farming also. They've got strong administration and strong army, and they are quite ferocious, densely populated. Just these two ideas. You read the first paragraph, you just get to know, okay, two tribes have been compared. Let me just quickly know what are the characteristics of Moriori and Maori. So this was the first paragraph. Let's read the next two paragraphs. The tragedy of the Moriori resembles many other such tragedies in both the modern and the ancient world, pitting numerous well-equipped people against few ill-equipped opponents. So what did you get to know from this line? Now these type of sentences are direct sentences of the author. He gave you an example, he started the passage with an example, then he's saying something that it has been, let's say, prominent since histories, and we see it in modern times also, that the stronger one, the survival of the fittest, the stronger one always wins. What makes the Moriori collision grimly illuminating is that both the groups had diverged from common origin less than a millennium earlier. Now, what fascinates us about these two groups is their origin is same basically. Both were Polynesian people. The modern Maori are descendants of Polynesian farmers who colonized New Zealand around 1000 AD. Soon thereafter, a group of the Maori in turn colonized the Chatham Islands and became the Moriori. Initially, it was Maori group that went to New Zealand to settle, and from this Maori group came Moriori group and settled in the Chatham Islands. Quite easy. Let's read the next paragraph. If we could understand the reasons for the desperate development of those two island society, we might have a model of understanding the broader question of differing development on the continents. This is the kind of line that should be highlighted in front of you. So he is saying that it only depends upon the development on particular continent that decides future of these tribes. Such an experiment unfolded during the settlement of Polynesia. Scattered over the Pacific Ocean, beyond New Guinea and Melanesia, are thousands of islands differing greatly in the area, isolation, elevation, climate, productivity, and geological and biological resources. So he has mentioned different factors that influence the development of people, of some kind of tribes. It is these factors, right? Let's see the next two paragraphs now. For most of the human history, those islands lay far beyond the reach of watercraft. Around 1200 BC, a group of farming, fishing and seafaring people from the Bismarck archipelago north of New Guinea finally succeeded in reaching some of these islands. Over the following centuries, the descendants colonized virtually every habitable scrap of the land of Pacific. Now, what did we get from this particular paragraph? Practically seeing, we did not get anything about Maori or the Moriori group or what the author is trying to convey. So he simply gave you an example that these were the islands where people came from different areas and settled there. It's a further description of all that. So this is the paragraph which you should be quickly scanning, not skimming anything from here. While those ancestral, now he comes back to the story he was talking about. While those ancestral Maori who first colonized the Chathams may have been farmers, Maori tropical crops could not grow in the Chatham cold climate, and the colonists had no alternative except to revert to being hunter-gatherers. So that set of the Maori people that came to the Chatham Island and started calling themselves Moriori, they did not have too much for farming, so they had to revert to the hunter-gathering. Because they were hunter-gatherers, they could not civilize too much, they could not, get diverted towards the technological advancements. Since as hunter-gatherers, they did not produce crop surpluses available for redistribution or storage, they could not support and feed non-hunting craft specialists like armies, bureaucrats and chiefs, and that is the reason they were not too civilized. They did not have any kind of leadership because they were all busy in hunter-gathering. In addition, the Chatams are relatively small and remote islands capable of supporting a total population of only about 2,000 hunter-gatherers. So this was the number of people, those who were residing here in the Chatham Islands. With no other accessible islands, okay, let's read this. I believe this is the last paragraph. Though the passage is lengthy, there is nothing difficult in it. With no other accessible island to colonize, the Moriori had to remain in the Chatams and to learn how to get along with each other. They did so by renouncing war, and they reduced potential conflicts from overpopulation by castrating some of male infants. The result was a small, unwarlike population with simple technology and weapon, and without strong leadership or organization. So here we are talking about this Moriori group, the relatively, I would say, non-ferocious one, non-violent one. In contrast, the northern or the warmer part of the New Zealand, by far the largest island group in Polynesia, was suitable for Polynesian agriculture. So those Maori, the original people who stayed back in New Zealand, those Maori who remained in New Zealand increased in number until there were more than 1 lakh of them. They developed locally dense populations, chronically engaged in ferocious wars with the neighboring populations. With the crop surpluses that they could grow and store, they fed the craft specialists, the chiefs and the part-time soldiers also. So this was the whole story about these two tribes, Maori and Moriori. Both started from New Zealand itself. Maori stayed back in New Zealand. Moriori, relatively a smaller group, went to the Chatham Islands because it was it was a smaller group and there was not too much of scope for agriculture on the Chatham Islands. They had to become hunter-gatherers and they could not be civilized too much. And one fine day, or you can say some time back, the Maori original tribe, they went and attacked the Moriori people, and Moriori people, being not equipped too much, being not civilized too much, could not defend themselves. Alright, so let us now see the questions. Alright people, try to read the question and answer these questions. The first question is, what is the author trying to convey through this passage? My favorite kind of question. He would give you so much of information and then the question would be, what is he trying to convey through this passage? Go through all the options because there was a lot of information in the passage. You should be able to decide what was his focus point, what was he trying to say. Not everything can be important over there. Right. Let us see who's going to answer this question while I'm reading the options. First is, conflicts and wars have shaped our history and will continue to do so. Though he did mention this point that be it history, be it the modern time, there are tribes that come and fight with each other, that invade the other islands or other territories. But this was not the focus point of author. Did he talk too much about it? He did not. It was just one line where he mentioned that, oh, this has always been seen. He never laid emphasis on saying it shaped our history, because he did not build the argument on this. This, I would say, is not that important. We can eliminate this option. B is, I am waiting for your responses. Let us see who's going to answer this. Geography played a very important role in our history. Third is, a shared history and culture cannot ensure peace. Do you think he was anywhere pessimistic that look at these two tribes, they were from the same background, they both were from New Zealand and someday they were fighting with each other? He wasn't sad, he wasn't pessimistic anywhere, he wasn't hopeless anywhere. In this passage, author was not judgmental about this. He talked with facts, with experiments. So he mentioned it itself that this was the best experiment that unfolded the fact that even though you have same origin, after a few years, down the line, you may even fight each other for the survival. But he wasn't pessimistic. So this cannot be the right answer. Agriculturalists are paradoxically more ferocious than hunterers. Do you think he was trying to prove through the passage, through this one example of Maori and Moriori, that the farmers are relatively more aggressive than hunter-gatherers? It was by chance that he mentioned their backgrounds, their occupation, their day-to-day lives and the activity that they were involved in, because it was important to, explain that what is the fact behind this, that Maori won over the Moriori. Let us see who's going to be the first one to answer this question. So I have almost, given you the answer. Answer is second one. Why do you think he mentioned so many things over there? The elevation, the land, the agriculture and everything. Time and again throughout the passage, this idea revolved that people, those who have crops, they can grow better because they can feed their army, they can feed their craftsmen. But people, those who do not get it from the crops that they can grow through the agriculture, they have to get to something else, do something else, that is being hunter-gatherers. So he wanted to say that it's the geography, it's the kind of continent on which a tribe develops that shapes its history or development. So answer will be this one. I hope you got some idea about this, how to select this kind of answers, wherein the question simply asks you what did you want to convey through the passage. Moving on to the next question. Go through this question, everyone. I'm giving you a few seconds and then I'll read it for you. Alright, so what could be inferred to be the reason for the long period of survival of the very peaceful Moriori civilization? So yes, he did mention some of the, year over there, that is around 1000 AD, these Moriori people were settled in Chathams. So they were living peacefully. What happened that particular year or those months when they were invaded by the Maori and defeated by the Maori? Now this is known as inference based question, because this was not given in the passage. Nowhere in the passage author explained you that what happened that year around 1200, that Maori people came to the Chathams and they attacked the Maori people. This is an inference based question. Give me a logical answer to this one. Let us see who all have understood what inference is. Okay, Aarti, this is the answer for this question. Okay, I believe you've answered for this question. If the second answer you've given for this one, then it's perfectly fine. It's the right answer. Very good. Answer is second one. The Maoris and the Morioris lost awareness of each other's existence and did not come into contact again for many centuries, perhaps as long as 500 years. Right? So now if I'm going to come to this point and justify this point once I read all the options. A says, for most of the human history, the Chatham Islands on which the Moriori stayed lay far beyond the reach of watercraft. If it was beyond the reach of watercraft, what happened that year that somehow Maori managed to to go there? So for this we don't have sufficient data available in the passage. We cannot go with this point. Author did not mention in the passage that around 1200 AD the Maoris equipped themselves with ships, army of ships or something like that. So this cannot be the right answer because data is insufficient here. The Moriori had a tradition of resolving disputes peacefully. They usually would not fight back but offered friendship and a division of resources to the invader. Do you think that Maoris can afford to do that? They already do not have enough food for their people. Why would they offer their resources to the invaders? So this becomes factually wrong. Though it was not given anywhere in the facts, but the idea that we've gathered from the passage about these Chatham Island people, they could not afford to do it. This can't be the right answer. D. The Moriori, being skilled hunters, would flee to the bush and conceal themselves so well that they were able to escape most invaders. So what do you think? The invade one, there was no mention of this idea in the passage, no hint towards this idea. Second, if the Moriori people hid themselves into the bush, why would the invaders go back? Invaders can come over there and settle their own colonies. They've come this far to the Chatham Islands, why would they not settle there? So again, doesn't make any sense. Answer will be this one. Now this doesn't give you any concrete kind of fact that you can challenge. It simply tells you a hypothesis that Maoris and Morioris probably lost awareness of each other. It's just that the Chathams were so remote that these Maori people never went there or never tried that. So while exploring, they would have come across the island someday. They lost awareness of each other's existence and they did not come into contact. There can be no other probability. The only probability is it was the first time they came into the contact. Otherwise, they probably did not even know about each other. Right, so let us now see the last question for today. Try your luck in this one, everyone. What was the very fundamental role that agriculture had to play in warfare? A very simple question, yet again based on inference. Author mentioned in the passage that Maori were so strong and ferocious because they were living in New Zealand, a northern part of New Zealand, which is relatively the biggest island on which farming was possible. Agriculture was in boom. Because they had enough food to feed their armies, that is the reason they were so successful and civilized. Right. So the question again, what was the very fundamental role that agriculture had to play in warfare? Let's read all the options. Aarti, try your luck in this one. Since land is an agricultural resource that is no longer being produced, the only way to add that resource to your kitty is war. But this is saying that land is no more important. So how would agriculture help? If we go by this point, it is saying that agriculture is not important. What you have in your kitty is war. So this is not explaining it. Let's read second one. The American Revolution stemmed in part from British agriculture-related regulation, including the requirements that the colonies ship certain commodities such as tobacco only to England. Why are we talking about America and England when it was not given in the passage? So easy to eliminate this option because it gives you some concrete facts about something that was not there in the passage. C. As German U-boats cut off trade routes in World War I, the government turned to British farmers to feed the country during a time of crisis. If we cannot go by an option that mentions England and America, how can we go by this one? Again eliminated. So, naturally the answer should be D. You needed food surpluses to support full-time soldiers and chief. This was only possible with agriculture, as simple as that, something that was so clearly given in the passage. I hope all the questions are now clear. If there is any doubt, drop it in the comment box. If there are any suggestions, drop it in the comment box. So that was all for today. All the three questions that I came up with today, I would say except the third one, it was relatively easy and direct. The other two were critical reasoning based on or inference based question. This is the kind of question you would get in your MBA entrance exams. They would not give you direct or easy questions. So in the next live, I will come up with inference question tone questions and main idea question. If you want to know tricks about those passages also, if you want to approach those passages in the right way, stay tuned to the channel and do not forget to like, share and subscribe it with your friends. Thank you, keep smiling and God bless you everyone.